Good morning, everybody. It's your boy D Mac. So let's talk. But before we get into it, I just want to take some time out to thank everybody who subscribed, everybody who come in and just give me feedback and who interact with me on my channel. I appreciate each and every one of you. We're growing intentionally, so that means that we're going to grow slowly. Anything that is intentional happens through a process. And so I understand that, and I'm grateful for everybody who supports what I'm saying and doing. So, I want to give a shout out to all of the people that I interact with in my small YouTube circle: Self Awareness TV, Dr. Walls, Write the Truth, Big J, Clyde Diva, um, and those are just the only ones I can think of right off the top of my head. Salute to all of y'all. Keep on doing what you're doing. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. When you see the title, so let's talk about this money market thing, because this is something that I was just talking about last week. And I was talking about the central banking system creating their own digital currency and what problems would that cause and what things could come out of that. Well, I just read a report this morning that um, Saudi Arabia is going to accept the Chinese yen as payment for oil. Now, the US dollar has been primarily used for the purchase of oil from Saudi Arabia. This is a deal that we made with Saudi back in like the 70s or 80s. And this is what kept the dollar bill high on the global money market. And so now that now that this is taking place and Saudi Arabia is about to accept the Chinese yen, I'm pretty, I'm wondering to myself, what's going to happen? Because allegedly, this is the reason why Muammar Gaddafi lost his life. And this is the reason why, the real reason why Saddam Hussein lost his life, because they decided that they were going to accept or allow other monies besides the US dollar, or other currencies, I should say, besides the US dollar, to be used to purchase oil. And that would lower the value of the US dollar by doing so. And so now we see that Saudi Arabia is making that move again, but now they're making that move with China. And if you've been paying attention over the last, I say the last 8 years or so, our relations with these places have been very, very shaky to say the least. And China in particular, who has had a relationship with Russia, let's say that again, China, who has a relationship with Russia, and it's not just, oh, we're cool with each other. No, they went in together to come up with this currency. They wanted their own currency, and they wanted to break away from all of these different unions so that they would basically be independent upon each other, pretty much, or codependent upon each other. And so if that's being the case, what is America going to do? Because the last two leaders who tried to pull this move, well, we ended up in some type of war with them. You know, we ended up in some type of battle with them. So I'm going to be looking close at Saudi Arabia and our relationship with Saudi Arabia, being now that they're allowing China to use the yen in order to purchase oil. And another thing that that does, is that going to establish their central banking currency? Because this is a centralized currency. This isn't decentralized. This is a currency that they're creating that can be controlled by the banks. I was talking about this the other day, that they're coming out with these their own digital currency to thwart the Bitcoin and Ethereum or whatever you want to call it. But they've come out with their own centralized digital currency to implement in the place of the decentralized currency that is now flowing around and everybody's using so freely without the government taxing and without the government having control over the flow of their currency. So now with this move by China and Saudi Arabia, this should lift a whole lot of eyebrows. It should definitely raise a lot of eyebrows because this is beginning to show a plan that is taking place to break away from the United States as far as being dependent upon us for these ventures in oil, because the yen is attached to the US dollar. So if the US dollar falls, then that means it's going to affect the yen. So if you take this centralized banking digital currency and use it in the place of the yen, then it's not going to affect, you know what I'm saying? It's not going to affect the yen whenever the US dollar falls. And since we're not using this centralized banking digital currency, whenever the dollar does fall by not being used to buy oil, it's not going to affect Japan because they've already essentially switched over to that centralized digital currency. You get what I'm saying? So it's like they're switching out the digital currency for the yen, and then they're going to buy all of their oil with the centralized currency. And then when the dollar begins to fall and it has the yen attached to it, it's not going to affect China as much. And they've been making a lot of moves for a long time. China has been working diligently with Russia on this project of this digital currency. And Iran has also been brought into the fold. Also, what is it? Not Afghanistan, but Pakistan has been brought into the fold. And there's so many people who definitely don't like the United States that are getting in on this. And for a whole, I say 4 years, 4 to 5 years, where we were taken from the Trilateral Commission, which is a commission that is based in North America, Western Europe, and Japan. And this was a commission that discussed and talked about the money marketplace, the value of currency around the world, and all of the different things that were going on concerning the money market. And we used to be a part of that, but Donald Trump took us out of that whenever he came into the office. And so for a whole at least 4 to 5 years, they had opportunity to build and to plan things without our knowledge because we took ourselves out of the loop. So now we're sitting in a place to where they've had 4 or 5 years to build up this plan and to come out with this. And we have no idea how to try to fix it. We have no idea how to offset that loss that we would be making, because that would be a major loss. And I feel like this is why Joe Biden is trying to get us off of fossil fuels and get us on to clean new energy, because they will be able to utilize these tactics to gain just something over us. They'll be able to gain a foothold in the oil, in the fossil fuel system, and this will give them a global appeal, I guess you could say. And this is something that we really should be keeping on our mind, something we really should be looking into. I'm not saying you as a citizen, but our government should be on top of this thing, because I've always stated that we're reactive instead of proactive. And this is what puts us in a lot of these bad situations that we end up in as a country. So I would get ahead of this if I was them. I would look into it a lot more because you never know what's going to come down the pipeline. And if we keep on trying to rely on fossil fuels to keep our money at a certain level on the global money market, then we're going to find ourselves as a third world country within the next 10 years. I can pretty much guarantee that. The centralized banking system, they have already started to employ their services to other countries, and they're putting their banks in these other countries like they always do. And now they're lending out this digital currency to these countries like they always do so that they can have a stronghold in that region. And digital currency is the new dollar bill, basically. So we're going to go into a one world currency. It's going to be a digital currency. They're going to start pushing everybody towards that even more than they already do now. So we've heard so many explanations on why. Well, they tried to use COVID because they say people touch money and that money circulates around it. They tried to use that as an excuse for changing to a one world currency. Um, there's so many elements to this that I could talk about and I could try to explore, but I'm not really going to get too deep into it right now. This is just a prequel to what I'm going to discuss later on this week. And that's just the whole money market system. But I've got more research that I need to do. But I wanted to set it up just by putting this story out there because we as the United States are being left in a blind spot. And that's a very dangerous thing for us, especially when it comes to fossil fuels. Because you look at everything that we use fossil fuels for. If you just sit down for about 15 minutes, it'll take you about that long, and just look up all of the things that we utilize fossil fuel for. And someone stated to me the other day, well, how is it that we're putting sanctions on Russia, but then we turn around and we're buying oil from them? You don't think that's hurting us? That's why our gas prices are going up because we're buying oil from Russia. Well, wait, hold up. What about the oil reserves in the Middle East that we were dealing about? What about the oil just in Texas where I live alone? We have enough reserve oil to last the United States for at least 90 years. So think about that for a second. Why are we needing so much oil outside of the Middle East and outside of our own land, which we have great oil reserves? Why are we having to get oil from Russia? So, what area has Russia taken over that now they have such a great oil reserve that we are buying our oil from them? And the same thing with the whole entire attack on Ukraine. Russia saw that by them having these oil reserves in which we need gave them a stronghold and gave them some influence over the United States, which it's doing right now. And it's showing itself to be true right now during this war, and how the United States wants to handle Russia with the kitty gloves because they know that that relationship concerning oil is very fragile. And so when you have to take this into consideration, then you see why it's important for us to get off of fossil fuels, because this is giving people a stronghold within our country. Man, this is getting crazy. It's getting crazy and it's getting technical and it's getting deep. And a lot of the things that were going on a few years back, we were like, oh, well, that's not important. But now you're starting to see how important it really was. And now you're seeing our country start to suffer some minor inconveniences because of it. I don't care about high gas prices because at least I have the resources available to pay it and still be able to go and do the things that I want to do and do the things that me and my family want to do. I had to travel this weekend. Yeah, gas was a little bit higher, but so what? So what? That doesn't matter. In the grand scheme of life and the things in my life, there are things far more important than gas prices going up. So that's not a big thing to me at all. Um, I'm more concerned about longevity. I'm more concerned about what the future holds for my grandchildren and my children in this world. This is what I'm more concerned about. And these gas prices really don't concern me as much as other people are making it out to be, because really it's a luxury. Having a vehicle and all of that is a luxury. That is not a necessity. Even though we see it as one, it is not. It's a luxury, because ultimately, whether you have a vehicle or not, you can travel. You have 2 feet and you can move with those 2 feet. You can get you a bike. There's so many other alternative modes of transportation besides a vehicle that use fuel. So that's just my own personal take, but it is what it is. You can agree to disagree if you want to. That's fine. But yeah, oil is not a big concern to me. And high gas prices is not a big concern to me. Now, when we're not able to eat, or when our supply of water is so contaminated that we can't drink the water, that's a concern to me, because that's something that is directly affecting every human's life. That's what concerns me. But all of this material stuff that's just an inconvenience to our luxuries that we're used to because it's a country of excess, I'm not concerned about that. And I'm not concerned about people crying about gas prices. You laugh and you can make jokes about it. That's cool. But that is not a real concern. Uh, so, what we really should be looking at is the fact that this central currency, or this digital currency that China is about to implement, is going to be used in place of the yen to buy oil, and therefore it's going to cause the US dollar to drop. The yen is attached to the US dollar. The US dollar is like 55% used for oil uh, purchase in the Middle East, as opposed to China's 7.1%. So they're not going to lose out as much as we would anyway. Um, yeah, just look into the story. You can find it anywhere. You can Google it and just check it out for yourself. But I'm just pointing out some things right here because, like I said, when I speak about this in more depth later on down the road, if you listen to this episode, then you're gonna understand what I'm talking about. But if you just tune in on that, then you might just get lost because I'm gonna go all the way in on it. So, yeah, this is just a prequel. Keep your eye out on China. Keep your eye out on the Middle East, because something's about to go down there. There's going to be some type of fabricated altercation or problem that we have with these people that they're going to say is potentially a threat to the national security of the United States. And they're going to get your permission to go over into that country again and do what they did to Saddam Hussein and do what they did to Muammar Gaddafi. These are two examples of what happened whenever you try to accept other currency besides the US dollar for oil. But we'll see. Don't take my word for it. Just keep your eye out. And this is your boy D Mac, man. Y'all know what I say. Sticks and stones can break your bones, but the word can always heal you. I'm out.